Hey there, my friend, welcome. My name is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. I'm the founder here at the Fit Father Project, and in today's special video, we're gonna talk about how to build muscle on a vegan diet. And this is for you if you're a vegan, and we're also gonna cover some vegetarian options as well. And I need you to know, before you go any further in this video, this is an in-depth video. If you're looking for one of those top 5 best tips, crappy little videos, this is not for you. This is an in-depth video where I'm actually gonna take you into my kitchen. We're gonna go through a whole vegan meal prep, and I'm also gonna cover some of the vegan muscle building principles in the gym. So we're gonna talk about both the nutrition and the workout side of things. So we're gonna give you the whole big picture on how to build muscle if you're on a vegan or vegetarian diet, your training, your nutrition, we're gonna cover it all. I know you're gonna learn a ton. So stick on here if you wanna get a deep dive into this topic, and get out your pen and paper and take some notes, and let's dive on in.
FitFatherProject.com.
All right, so let's get into a proper vegan bodybuilding diet. Now, before we get into the actual foods we have laid out here in my kitchen, the first thing we need to talk about is that you need to be following the fundamentals of a proper muscle building plan in general before we even look at the specific foods. So you need to be on a proper training plan that uses progressive resistance, meaning you're lifting heavier weights in subsequent lifting sessions. You need to be using the proper compound exercises. You need to be resting and recovering adequately. You need to be supplementing properly. So regardless of what your diet is, whether it's an omnivorous diet or a plant-based diet, if your training and your sleep and your recovery are not dialed in, you're not going to gain muscle, even if you're eating quote-unquote the right vegan bodybuilding foods. So you need to lay that out there. Now, moving forward, we're going to assume that you have some of that stuff dialed in. If you do not, and you want help on the exercise and the workout things, then scroll below, check out our 5 best muscle building exercises and our old school muscle building program. Now, when we're starting to set up a vegan bodybuilding diet, the first thing I like to do is set your protein target. So for most bodybuilders, a good rule of thumb, whether you're eating plant-based or not, is to roughly have 0.8 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So in kgs, that equals like 2.77 grams per kg of body weight. So this is really important because we're gonna work our way into your proper macros, your protein, carbs, and fat targets based on that protein target, because protein is one of the more challenging things to get on a vegan diet. There's carbs abound on vegan diets. Some of the best plant-based foods are rich in carbs. There's lots of healthy fats with our nuts, our seeds, our oils. Proteins are a little more scarce. So we gotta set that protein target and then find the protein sources that we're gonna fill in there. So let's use an example of a 200-pound guy. Protein target for that person might be around 150 to 200 grams. So let's just use a 150 as a low protein target. Now we need to figure out how many meals is this bodybuilder going to be eating throughout the day. So as a rule of thumb, there's lots of different ways to set up your meal timing, and one is not better than the other. You could certainly intermittent fast and have 1-2 meals a day, but we're going to use just a general have 4 meals spaced throughout the day every 4 hours approach, which is a tried and true classic bodybuilding approach. So let's see, a breakfast at 8, lunch at noon, mini meal snack at 3, dinner at 7. That's a really easy way to divide that up. And if we have 150 grams of protein and we divide that across these different feedings, these 4 feedings, we're roughly going to be having around 35 to 40 grams of protein per meal. So really, really important to figure this out, because once you know how much protein you should be having in any individual meal, it enables you to start to create actual meals that hit these targets. So we know now that there's roughly 4 calories per gram of protein. So if you need 150 grams of protein, that's 600 calories. Now we also need to figure out the overall calories that you need per day. And this may seem like we're getting into the minutia, but we're not. This is the key foundational stuff. If you are under eating on your meal plan, you're not going to put on the muscle. So we need to make sure you're eating the proper number of calories. So we created a free calorie calculator. It's an Excel, a Google Sheets that you can look and scroll below, and you can actually make a copy of that and enter your numbers to figure out the calories you need to eat per day, because we got to figure that out and then figure out how that protein target fits in. So let's say for our 200-pound guy, his calorie target to build muscle is 3,000 calories. Let's just say that's the answer. We know we have 150 grams of protein, which is 600 calories. That leaves us with 2,400 calories that we're going to fill in from the fats and the carbs. And however you fill those in is going to be, up to you. There's, you're basically going to mix and match from there, but we know that we have 150 grams of protein. The remainder of the 2,400 calories are coming from fats and carbs. So the way I would set up these meals is I would divide up that protein across the 4 meals. So we know we're roughly getting around 35 grams of protein per meal. And then to hit the remainder of that, I imagine that our carbohydrates, without doing the math, which is just ballpark figures for this purpose of this video is roughly gonna be around 80 grams of carbs across those 4 meals. So that's gonna be, do the math for me, around 320 grams of carbs a day, and we're roughly gonna have around 100 grams of fat divided up across those 4 meals. So that's roughly around 30 grams of fat per meal. So your meals might look like 35 grams of protein, 25 to 30 grams of fat, 80 grams of carbs. And I built a meal that's just like that to show you. So here's a meal that has a cup of quinoa, which is the highest protein grain that if you're bodybuilding and you're on a vegan diet, you're gonna get used to eating quinoa because per 40 grams of carbs, 1 cup, it has 10 grams of protein, which is pretty good for a carb source. Then we have some sprouted and soaked pinto beans. Great source of protein, great source of fiber. Pairing that together with some hemp seeds, good source of healthy fats and proteins, and I have a little bit of avocado and some sriracha hot sauce on there. So this meal in total has those exact numbers. It has 30 grams of fat, has around 35 grams of protein, around 80 grams of carbs. Really, really good, simple meal, and you can see how easy that is to make. I cooked the quinoa in bulk. I got beans that were actually pre-made from a company called Eden Organic, and what they do is they actually soak and sprout their beans and they pressure cook them to get rid of some of these anti-nutrients and lectins in them, and so they're ready to go right out the gates. And I paired it with some healthy fats with the avocado and the hemp seeds, which also has protein and the omega-3s in it. So this is an example of what a bodybuilding meal might look like that's very simple. Didn't require lots of meal prep, and there's so many other ways you can do this. Alternatively, you can get something like a sweet potato that I cooked up right here. And it's just ironically just sitting on our kitchen counter. But a sweet potato, great vegan carb source, because remember, so many people forget that carbs are just as valuable for building muscle as the protein. We need to fuel your training, and carbs directly stimulate the muscle building downstream pathways through mTOR. Insulin is a trigger of mTOR and protein synthesis. So without getting into the science, carbs can help you build muscle. They're valuable. And the good thing about a plant-based protein diet and a vegan bodybuilding diet is you're gonna get plenty of carbs naturally in these foods. You're not gonna get away with not having the carbs that are naturally found in the beans, the quinoa, the sweet potatoes, the oatmeal, and some of these higher protein grains like teff here, which is an African grain that a lot of people, it's actually a seed, very high in protein, and you can make this in a rice cooker or on a stovetop. So back to what we're kind of constructing here in terms of this vegan bodybuilding diet. We're roughly dividing up to 4 meals. We know our macros across those meals, and we're gonna create these kind of high protein meals. Hit your protein target, fill in the rest with the carbs and the healthy fats. Now, other important things is some good questions that people often ask about vegan bodybuilding diets. Like, Dr. A, I've heard that plant-based proteins are not complete proteins, like animal proteins. Is this gonna be a problem for harming my muscle gains? And the answer is no, it will not be a problem as long as you're eating a wide variety of different plant-based foods. Yes, any individual plant-based protein may not be a complete protein, but when you combine these proteins throughout the day, your body has all the amino acids it needs to build muscle. And so this is great when you pair something like the rice plus the beans, or the quinoa plus the beans. This is gonna be plenty fine. You're gonna have the amino acids you need to build muscle. Now, there's one amino acid in particular that is a direct trigger for muscle building. That's called L-leucine, and this is typically found in the richest abundant sources in animal proteins. In dairy, in eggs, whey protein is a super high source. So what the good plant-based protein powders do these days is actually spike them with L-leucine, which is a good trigger for protein synthesis. So this is an example where I recommend to help you hit that protein target, you get a quality plant-based protein. So this is a Garden of Life sport that also has some leucine in it. So this might be something you might use in post-workout to get another 15, 20, 30 grams of protein in there, and you can actually pair that with some fruit to begin to replenish some of those glycogen stores in your muscle and your liver. So I hope that's starting to make sense. Now I want to answer another frequently asked question we get about vegan diets. What's the deal about soy? Is soy going to be estrogenic? Is it going to kill my gains? And what the research shows, and this is research from 15 randomized clinical controlled trials, is that soy in moderate intakes is not going to affect your testosterone levels and will be fine. Now I still recommend you get organic, non-GMO soy, and I recommend you limit your soy intake when possible. But overall, the research shows is that you can have soy roughly around 70 grams per day is what the study showed is the upper limit, and that's not going to impact your testosterone levels, your free testosterone levels, or your sex hormone binding globulin levels. So soy can be a part of your diet. I do not recommend you use a heavily processed soy protein. Those are it's just not a great idea. They have to go through a whole bunch of processing, and bad things can happen to soy proteins. But you can get some whole, organic tofu. You can get some fermented tempeh, which is a great fermented soy source. And here, I showed you what we can kind of do is start to build a plant-based protein meal, which is a salad with some walnuts, some tofu right here, and then we'd pair that with a carb source like the sweet potato to hit those 80 grams of carbs. That'd probably be like 2 of these mini sweet potatoes. And again, we have a simple muscle building meal. So it's very, very possible. You got to know your numbers. You got to make sure you're eating enough calories and getting some of these really good, high quality plant-based protein sources. Another thing I like to do, another good convenient meal for a vegan bodybuilding diet is to do what I call vegan prot meal. So you get some high quality oatmeal, around 1.5 cups of this will be that 80 grams of carbs. Again, that may not be your number, but I'm using this example that we've been doing throughout this video. Around 1.5 cups of this oatmeal, you're going to mix in a plant-based protein powder, and you're going to add in some hemp seeds and some chia seeds, and it's super easy to hit those ideal plant-based numbers and really get a great muscle building meal. So listen, super possible to go ahead and have an amazing vegan bodybuilding diet, but you do need to prep ahead of time. You're gonna need to cook something like quinoa in bulk. You're gonna need to get your go-to carbs like the sweet potatoes, put them in the oven, or build the quinoa in bulk. So when you're going throughout the week and you wanna get a meal, it's your meal time to hit that meal, that you have a go-to food source that's right there and good to go for you. Another thing that's important, whether you're following a vegan bodybuilding diet or you're eating animal proteins, is to make sure you're getting enough greens in your diet. So this is why whenever I'm making any of these kind of like bowls, if you will, these power bowls, I'm taking a scoop of greens, throwing it on the side. Greens are overlooked when it comes to a bodybuilding diet. Greens are important. They give you the vitamins, the minerals, the micronutrients, and the fiber to move that food through your digestive tract. Because it's not just what you eat, it's also what you absorb, and the health of your digestive tract is super important. So we like the greens, and I also recommend that you get a high quality probiotic source into your diet. So here is here's some sauerkraut, which is amazing. You can also get, again, those fermented soys like the tempeh can be something you include, or a kombucha, but get these into your diet, because some of these this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. But some of these plant-based sources have things called anti-nutrients in them, things that inhibit digestion and absorption. Soy has anti-nutrients, bean has anti-nutrients. So by getting a good probiotic source that's going to help you digest food better and improve your digestion, improve the amount you absorb from your food. Awesome. So I hope you enjoyed that first part of this video on the vegan muscle building meals and the meal prep aspect. Now that we're back in the gym, what we're going to do is talk about some of the muscle building exercise principles for you as a vegan or vegetarian, because as great as nutrition is, we also make sure we're doing the right kind of training to stimulate that muscle growth so we can take advantage of those proper meals and the quality calories we're consuming. So without further ado, let's get set up, and we're going to talk about some of the best muscle building principles, and I know you're going to learn some more. All right, so to get straight into it, the first thing we need to talk about is your training. How are you lifting weights? How frequently? How much? And what kind of general recommendations can we make regardless of what program you're following? Well, the first thing is we know how muscles grow. Muscles grow by getting stressed, meaning we work them out and we exert a stress on the muscle, and then there's something called supercompensation that happens where the muscle goes stronger than that stress, it recovers, and it gets a little bit better. And so to continue building muscle, we need to lift heavier weights. We need to lift 50 pounds, and then we need to try to do the 55s, to the 60s, etc. This is called progressive overload training. And I want to give this principle as opposed to saying that you should be doing full body workouts, you need to do a bro split, or you need to be doing upper lower split. This is the key principle. We need to make sure you're getting progressive resistance as often as possible. And there are a lot of different recommendations that I have. The first thing is we want to base our workouts on compound movements. So if your goal is to build muscle fast, then really your goal in simple terms should be to get strong fast on the squat, the deadlift, your pull-ups, your overhead presses, and your rows. Some of these foundational movements, if you get strong, focus on getting stronger, progressive resistance on those motions, you're going to be very successful. Now, when it comes to picking your right training plan, which is hugely essential, we need to balance a couple things. We need to balance that stimulus we want to create with recovery, where the muscles actually grow outside the gym. So the workout stimulates that protein synthesis response, muscles start to grow, they get that stimulus, and outside the gym, we feed the muscles with the nutrition, with the sleep, so they recover and get better. So we need to balance these two factors. So yes, we can train way too frequently with not enough recovery. And so I need you to think right now, what does your life look like? how much of a recovery capacity do you have? If you're a kid in college and you basically have no responsibility other than going to classes and drinking or whatever the hell you do, then you have more time to sleep and recover. So you can probably train a little more aggressively than someone maybe who's working 50, 60, 70 hours a week at a job and is barely getting 6 hours of sleep. Your recovery capacity is a lot different. So know your recovery capacity and tailor your training to that. As a good rule of thumb though, as a natural guy, you want to be training twice, each body part at least twice per week. So I like a slightly higher frequency approach. Why? Well, because for every set that you do of any given body part, let's say we're doing the bench press, there is diminishing returns to each subsequent set. So I'll tease that phrase out for you. So let's say you do 3 to 4 sets on the bench press. Those 3 to 4 sets, those first ones, very effective for stimulating the chest, breaking down those muscle fibers, stimulating the protein synthesis. Sets 6 through 10 have marginal decreasing benefit. So your first 3 sets very effective. The next ones are not nearly as effective for stimulating that protein synthesis. There's a sweet spot to the amount of volume you can do in any given workout. So this is why I like the 2 times per week hit every body part method, because after you train a particular muscle, you're going to get this stimulation protein synthesis effect for, depends on your training age, but maybe up to 48 hours after a workout. So it makes more sense to do X number of sets, let's say 5 to 6 for a particular body part on Monday, and then train it again on Friday, versus doing 20 sets of chest on Monday and being so ungodly sore that you can't train chest again for another 7 days. Does not make as much sense. Now, this is what works for natural guys. If you're not natural and you have a recovery capacity, you're probably not watching this video, first off, but second off, you can handle a lot more volume and your chest can actually recover from that kind of beating. But for natural guys, split up your volume. So if you're gonna be doing 12 sets of chest throughout the week, do 6 on day 1, 6 on day 4, and now you're getting this constant protein synthesis effect. So we need to balance training volume with frequency. I like twice per week. And what it ends up looking like is doing something like an upper body, lower body split. Hitting upper body twice per week, hitting lower body twice per week. Or you can do a classic full body workout 3 times per week. This is an old school method used by some huge guys. I think Bill Pearl is a guy that comes to mind off the top of my head who used some of these early 5x5 kind of things in full body workouts. Some of these old guys in the 70s bodybuilders used full body workouts. They're coming back into fashion now because we're realizing how effective this higher frequency approach is with the proper volume. So that's training. We need to progressively overload, lift heavier weights, and we're going to talk about this down here in number 6 and number 5, I should say, how we actually track our progress. Hugely important. All right, so training aside, we're going to move into principle number 2, which is to maximize recovery. So as we talked about, exercise stimulates muscle protein synthesis. Recovery actually makes sure those muscles grow. So the first thing we're talking about recovery is sleep. Sleep is absolutely foundational to muscle building. If you're not sleeping well, your muscle gains are gonna stink. So at minimum, I would say, if your goal is to build muscle fast, you're getting 7.5 quality hours of sleep per night. If you're getting less than that, your gains are gonna be suboptimal. Ideally, you're sleeping up to 9 hours per night. And this is just because muscles grow outside the gym and we're giving our bodies a beating when we're working out, and we wanna make sure we recover when we're not working out. Sleep is the foundation of our recovery. So you need to not just make sure that you're getting enough sleep, but the sleep you are getting is highly quality sleep. If you're finding that you're restless at night, you're waking up to pee, these things are impacting your recovery. You need good uninterrupted sleep. So a couple quick tips is, 1, our bodies like to be cold during the nighttime. Our circadian rhythm, our core temperature drops at night, so sleep in a cold room. Taper your fluids at night so you're not having to get up and pee all the time. Take some supplements like some melatonin or some ZMA, which is a zinc magnesium aspartate, which can help some guys with testosterone levels and also helps improve sleep quality. Magnesium is really the big thing there. But anything we can do to optimize our sleep is gonna optimize our muscle gains as a result. So that's usually on the recovery, but also I wanna point out this word I wrote up here, cortisol. It's our body's main stress hormone. How many of us, you can raise your hand silently at home watching this, that has some stress in your life, whether you're in school and you have stress from school or your job or your family? Cortisol, and unchecked cortisol, this chronic stress, is going to impact your recovery from your workouts. So doing anything you can do to really minimize the stress in your life, or at least get a better grip on it, is gonna help you build muscle. So we can take the same athlete on the same nutrition plan, same diet plan, and one guy's stressed out because he has a family issue and one guy's not. The guy who's not is gonna build more muscle period. So we got to keep cortisol under check, and you know what those issues are in your life. Let's try to adjust those and do the best we can to keep the cortisol levels low. Next thing, principle number 3 is all about nutrition. When it comes to muscle building, our two best friends are really protein and carbs. We're going to talk about why fats are important for hormones and keeping your joints healthy, but I want to talk about the two main ones. A high protein diet works for building muscle, and there is a research-backed ideal protein recommendations, which typically I like to go on the higher side and recommend 0.8 grams up to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you're on the if you're not using our crappy US system and you're going to use the metric system, here's some conversions on this video of what that actually means in kilograms. But point being, we want a high protein diet. You want to spread those protein feedings out throughout at least 3 main meals, if not 4. So you do not have to eat 6 small meals per day. That's not going to give you better gains than if you only ate 1, 2, 3 meals. We learned that from some of this intermittent fasting research. But typically, it's kind of hard to eat. Let's say you're a 200-pound guy and you need to eat 200 grams of protein throughout a day. It can be hard to eat that in 1 or 2 meals. So we can spread that out into 4 meals of 50 grams of protein to hit your target. So set that protein target. That's probably going to be around 25 to 35% of your total calories. I recommend that you set your fat at roughly 25% of your total calories. So for most guys, it's going to be somewhere around 60 grams up to 120 grams of fat throughout the day. And again, spread that out throughout the day. Healthy fats are amazing for you. You want to get things like the olive oils, the nuts and seeds, avocados, the kind of healthy fats that are in some of your protein foods. So you might be eating salmon or grass-fed beef or eggs, the whole eggs. You want that whole quality egg yolk. Really great for your testosterone levels. But point being, these healthy fats are going to work their way into your meal, and then we're going to fill the rest of your calories up with quality carbs. And I want you to time most of these carbohydrates around your training. Pre-workout and post-workout. Best times for you to have your carbs. Particularly post-workout when your body's very nutrient receptive. After training, your body likes to suck up those carbs. It's like gets very spongy. There's actually receptors on your muscle cells called GLUT4 receptors that after you train go to the surface to invite more carbohydrate into the muscles to start the recovery process. So really cool, great time to eat lots of carbs after training. And carbs are a great tool for muscle building. They are as anabolic as protein, truly. So carbs stimulate insulin. Insulin is one of the biggest triggers for mTOR in protein synthesis, which is a fancy way of saying we're building muscle, we're synthesizing new proteins in the muscle. So make sure you get your carbs, don't skimp on those. And protein, carbs, fat, we talked a little about the macros, but calories matter too. You need to have a rough idea of how many calories you burn per day, and you need to eat more than that. It doesn't have to be dramatic. I'm not suggesting you eat 1,000 calories over that, this dirty bulking thing that's just gonna make you fat, but at least 250, if not 500 calories over that on the safe side, so that you have a buffer and your body has enough energy to build new muscle. So we can follow this kind of high protein and carb and fat ratios, but if we're not eating enough calories, we could be dieting. We could be preserving muscle and losing fat, but that's not our goal. So we need enough calories. And we have a calorie calculator here that we'll link in the description that gives you an idea of basically your total energy expenditure, how many calories you burn in a day. And then you can type in your actual data. It's a spreadsheet. You can make a copy of it. It's on Google Sheets. And that'll give you an idea of what you need to be doing. And I know you'll find that very helpful. Now, we'll pause there on the nutrition. There are some finer points that we can get into, but I think that's the big picture of what you need to know there. Number 4, proper supplementation. There are supplements that work for muscle building. A lot of them are total crap. Anything that seems too good to be true, that's a natural supplement, is too good to be true. The stuff that actually works are 1, creatine monohydrate. One of the best research-backed supplements, helps your muscles work more efficiently by giving them energy. You'll be able to lift more weight, but research also shows that creatine directly stimulates muscle building and it helps improve brain function. New research coming out. Creatine's awesome. Take 5 grams post-workout. You do not need to load this thing. You know, when I was growing up, we used to take like 25 grams of creatine, and some guys still do these loading protocols to saturate the body very quickly. Does not show any benefit over just taking 5 grams per day. Take it in your post-workout shake. There is some research that caffeine and creatine don't mix great together, and a lot of these pre-workouts are basically caffeine shots with some creatine. So take your creatine post-workout, very affordable supplement, one of the best things out there. I also want you to get a quality protein powder. I don't care if it's a whey protein powder, I don't care if it's plant-based. Get something with high amounts of the branched chain amino acids. Leucine in particular is the amino acid that stimulates muscle protein synthesis. You want your protein powder to have L-leucine in it. It'll say it, it's a good thing. You want that post-workout, great time to have a shake. And it's a great way to actually supplement your high protein target, because you can have a shake post-exercise with 40 grams of protein. That's really a great way to hit that protein target without feeling like you're constantly eating, whatever throughout the day. And this is a good little side note too, because I mentioned plant-based protein powders. You can hit all these macros with a completely vegetarian diet. The macros are the important thing. It's not like you have to be eating beef or chicken to hit these numbers. That makes it convenient, but you can be vegetarian and make massive muscle gains by following this principle. And the other supplement I would really recommend would be fish oil. Really great for keeping inflammation down, keeping your joints healthy, and it's great for your brain and your heart health, and a quality multivitamin. Which is really overlooked because people don't think it's a muscle building supplement. But look, muscle building requires all these thousands and millions, I should say truly millions of these different enzymatic reactions. It requires all the proper vitamins and minerals that your body needs for baseline functioning. So let's get that taken care of. Get a quality full spectrum multi so you know all your minerals and vitamin needs, your micronutrients are taken care of. Then you can just focus on getting your macros in. And the last thing I would also add is vitamin D. Great research shows that vitamin D levels, most of us are low. We have high levels of stress, we're not getting enough sunlight, and we're just burning through vitamin D and we're not getting enough. Vitamin D can raise testosterone levels in men, helps with immune function. One of the worst things you can do when you're trying to gain muscle is get sick. So it's a great all-around vitamin D is a great product for muscle building, so check that out as well. Proper supplementation, let's move to progress tracking. Really great, because remember principle number one, progressive overload. So to build muscle, we need to consistently track our progress. That means when you're in the gym, do not make the mistake of trying to remember your weights. Write those damn things down in a log. Whether it's on your phone, you got like Evernote or a note application, and you're jotting down what your weights were last week, that's great. Or you can get an old school journal. Carry your journal, write down your weights by hand in between your sets. One of the best things you'll also do. What I would also recommend as you're progress tracking and actually writing down your weights, so you're making sure that you are doing progressive resistance, is not just writing down, oh, I did 60 pounds on the dumbbell bench press for 12 reps. I would also write down something called RPE next to that, which is rate of perceived exertion. How hard was that? So how hard was that 60 pounds for 12? How many reps did you have left in the tank? And what RPE does is on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 is like failure, 1 is like you had 9 reps left in the tank. So let's say you had 2 reps left in the tank, you could have gotten like 14 or 15, you might give yourself an RPE 8. So I would write 60 times 12 on the flat dumbbell bench, RPE 8. So when I look back on that day, I can say, oh, not only did I hit this particular number, but I had some left in the tank. And if you see that your RPEs start creeping up to the 9 and 10, that means your body's not recovering enough in between these workouts. So it's a really great way to see, oh, I might need to up my sleep, up my nutrition, or take a day or two off of more rest and recovery. The RPE is a valuable thing, and you're only gonna ever know that if you actually wrote it down. If you leave it to memory, there's no way you're gonna remember how hard the RPE was from 2 weeks ago's back workout. Not a chance. So definitely track that progress. In addition to actually logging your weights, it's good to take a picture once every month. Muscle building is not an overnight thing. Like with weight loss, you can see noticeable progress week by week, but take a monthly picture. You'll be able to see just a front, back, and side picture. You'll be able to see the gains over time, and that's highly motivating, and it's nice to check back on your pictures. Principle number 6, vary your routine. So our bodies do adapt to training. Just like any stimulus and any stress we give our bodies, it's gonna adapt. And over time, a workout that was effective becomes less effective. So it's a good idea to vary your routine. That's why if you've been on a bodybuilding split and you've been doing chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, arms on Thursday kind of stuff, it could be a great time right now to switch to something dramatically different like full body training, or an upper lower split, or at the very least changing up your exercises every 4 to 8 weeks to give your body a new angle, a new stimulus. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. I mean, there's a difference between if you're doing flat dumbbell bench press as your main chest pressing motion and you move to a low incline dumbbell bench press, that's enough of a variation to get the muscle building going. So it doesn't have to be these dramatic changes, but you do need to change up your exercises and ideally your routine as well. And this is a really just foundational principle. So you need a program that respects this. If you want help with this, we have a completely done for you program called Old School Muscle that uses this old school full body training, 3 days per week, varies your routine and gives you all of this stuff that we've already talked about, done to a T. We hand you the whole plan, the meal plan, the workouts, the supplement, etc. So this is not a pitch for that program. I'm just telling you there are other great programs like ours and plenty of other stuff you can definitely find online. Just if you want help in full body training, something you want to explore, we're the guys for that. We have an amazing program. There'll be links below. But varying your routine, hugely important. Next thing, number 7, is expectation setting. So again, I alluded to this a little bit before. Muscle building is not an overnight thing. So you need to have an idea of how much muscle that you could build in any given time. And we have a full separate video that I shot that actually covers exact numbers of how much muscle as a natural guy you can expect to build in 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, and it's based on your training age. So here's a useful chart we'd like to throw up in this video. So it gives you an idea of some expectation setting for your muscle building. This is a patient man's game. If you're the kind of guy that just thinks you're gonna lift weights for 4 weeks and look like, Ronnie Coleman or Arnold Schwarzenegger, not a chance. But if you're the kind of guy that's willing to grit this out, get the fundamentals down and stick to it to a year, your body can look dramatically different. And also understand this, even gaining 5 pounds of muscle is huge on your physique. Here's a 5-pound muscle difference. Dramatic physique, just 5 pounds difference. So 5 pounds is a lot of muscle. So if you're gaining that, let's say over the course of 3, 4, 5 months, huge progress, especially if your numbers are going up on your squat, your bench, and your deadlift, and your fat's going down. So I hope you found this valuable. I mean, big jam-packed video, right? A lot of information, but these are the foundations of muscle building for natural guys. And I hope you found this incredibly valuable. If you want help with this, me and my team, we do this 24/7 for thousands of guys all over the world. We have that Old School Muscle Building program. You can definitely check that out. There's links below where you can grab that program online. We'll send you our meal plan, our workouts, supplement plan, all straight to your email immediately today so you can get started, and it respects all these principles, so that's a great option. And also we have another free video if you're not ready to jump into a full-blown program yet, the 5 best muscle building exercises, particularly for guys over 40, but even younger guys watching this video might like that because it shows you how to make those exercises like the bench, the pull-ups, deadlifts, and squats friendlier on your knees, shoulders, and low back so you don't get injured, which is one of the worst things that can happen to your muscle building progress. So thank you for being here, my friend. I hope you learned something great. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up if you found something useful in here and subscribe to our channel. We are a fast growing channel and we have hundreds of videos already on the channel, and we love all our new subscribers. And so holler at us, let us know new topics you want to hear about. We really appreciate your sub and your vote of support, and we can't wait to help you more in our programs like Old School Muscle. We have a weight loss program as well, FitFoller 30X. You can check that out below. Thanks for being here. Have an awesome day. Excited to hear about your progress, and I'll talk to you very soon, my friend.